There are a lot of things that I love to do with my spare time, and one of them is play video games with my friends. There are very little things more fun than getting online with your boys and running online matches until the break of dawn. But another thing I love to do is to watch sports. There's a certain level of hype that you get cheering on your favorite sports team that's hard to replicate. So it only makes sense that I would want a sports video game that I can play with all of my friends who also enjoy sports and video games. But unfortunately, I don't know if there will ever be a game that satisfies both of my favorite elements of sports and video games. In fact, I would even go as far as to say that there's never been a truly great sports game. Even as someone who plays sports games every now and then, the feelings that I have about video games and sports and the best parts of them are just not in those games. And that just got me thinking, why are they never good? I mean, video game companies should already have an outline of what people who like this kind of stuff like, right? So I thought about that, and today I'm going to tell you about some of the main reasons that sports games are not only not good now, but they probably won't be good for a long time. Before this video gets going, I want to say that I'm speaking about yearly sports franchises, not managerial games. I actually think that like Football Manager and games like that are pretty fun. But without further ado, here are my reasons why sports games are all bad. The first reason why sports games are never good is actually a problem that doesn't only occur with sports games, it happens with every yearly franchise. And that reason is that these games are just not high quality. The thing you have to remember about these yearly sports franchises is that they're marketed as something that simulates something that happens in real life. So obviously you want to make the game as realistic as you can. But every single year the sports titles that come out are just extremely glitchy cash grabs that sometimes even have game-breaking bugs that are left in the game. Here's an example right here. Now, if you as a football fan sit down to play a game of Madden and encounter a glitch like this where both teams can't recover a fumble, it kills the experience that these games are trying to create. These games are trying to be as realistic as possible, and even though you see plays like the Holy Roller in the NFL or Louisiana Tech's 87-yard fumble in college football, to say that these plays are few and far between are an understatement. This is just one example, but for those that don't pay attention to American football, these glitches are definitely not limited to Madden. So you can just do like a simple Google search and you'll find tons of these glitches in your favorite sport. The obvious reason that these games come out so bugged and glitchy is that these games have to be pushed out every single year. They're on a time limit. The development team behind the game simply does not have enough time to iron out all the kinks to make sure the game is as realistic as possible. They all have greedy, money-hungry bosses breathing down their necks to release the game and make more money because unfortunately, no matter how bad the game is, there are still going to be tons of people that buy it because it's a sports game. As I said before, this isn't just a problem with sports games. Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, even my darling Pokemon franchise are not immune to glitches due to the rigid schedule of content that the higher-ups want pushed out. But even though you can say this about every yearly game, it's still a reason to be cautious of these yearly sports franchises. The next reason that sports games are not good is the bad business practices that every game functions under. Of course, I'm talking about the paywall that comes with purchasing a sports game called microtransactions. I'm going to use a real-life example for this. Even though I'm making a video right now talking about how much I don't like sports games, I mentioned earlier that I do play them every now and then. And the sports game that I've played the most recently is MLB The Show 2022. If you paid attention to any of my last videos, in the side notes I mentioned that I'm a really big fan of the Los Angeles Dodgers. And as a lifelong fan of the Dodgers, my favorite player to watch is Corey Seager. Man, I miss Corey Seager so much, man. He's so good. Okay, I'm getting sidetracked. So the show introduces a 99 overall 2020 postseason edition Corey Seager as a ranked reward for the best players. And as a casual sports game player, there was no way I was going to win that many online ranked games, so I just figured that I would wait for it to be on the market. Well, the cheapest 99 overall Corey Seager that I saw in my time playing was about 500,000 stubs. Using the ratio that the game gives us, which is for $100 you can get 150,000 stubs, we can conclude that $1 gets you 1,500 stubs. So that makes this Corey Seager card worth about $330 for one single player. Now granted, this is a ranked reward on the market, so you can make the argument that instead of blaming the game company for everything being way too expensive on the casual player, that you can blame the players who list the card for that much on the market. Okay, then let me give you another example on the same player. MLB The Show 23 has a 99 overall Corey Seager as well, this time in a Rangers jersey instead of a Dodgers, but you know, it's whatever, I totally don't miss him at all. In order to get this Corey Seager, you need to collect 180 set 1 and 2 cards from various programs and collections. The programs, fine, I can grind those out, but the collections, like the Live Series collection, the one you have to buy packs to get the required players, packs cost 1,500 stubs again, so $1 at the cheapest. Assuming you get all the players you need at the rate that you get them from packs, you're looking at around the $100 to $200 range, again assuming that you're lucky enough to draw the players in the first place. You can even buy the players you need, but they cost more than opening packs, so either way, to get that Corey Seager card, you're looking at a decent chunk of change to spend. Business practices like this turn the casual gamer away from sports games. Now I just told you the problem that I have with MLB The Show, right? But what if I told you that this is maybe the least greedy business practice out of all of the sports games? The best players in FIFA are pretty much exclusively locked behind player packs. And in Madden and NBA 2K, you get currency at a much lower rate, and the rates of good players in those packs are much worse. Essentially, the whole microtransaction market sucks. One of the big selling points of these sports franchises is that you get to build a team with all of your favorite players in it. But it seems like the only way to do that is for players to spend way more money than the $70 that they just paid for your game. At least in Counter-Strike, you can sell your skins to get a return on your investment. In these games, the cards cannot be exchanged for any money that you put into the game, plus when they come out every year, you're just gonna have to start back at the beginning when the new game comes out. Again, those greedy, money-hungry corporations are what you're dealing with when you play these games, and their greed sucks the enjoyment out of the games for people who don't have that much money to spend after they buy it. So we talked about glitches and we talked about the business side, but this is what I think is the most important thing from preventing these games from being as fun as you want them to be. And that thing is the human nature of sports. Really quick for this, I want to show you some clips of video games and then things that happen in real sports. First is the MLB. I want to show you what happens when you hit a clutch home run and then what happens in real life.
Situations closers, they seem to live for. Get into some hot water. Oh, this one high and deep. Way back there. Out of here. Ball game. On the 7th pitch, Harper hits one in the air, left center field. Back it goes. Harper, the swing of his life.
The next example is the NFL. Here are two similar last-second touchdowns.
Well, this is just an exercise in futility. Do you even bother running a play here offensively?
I wouldn't, because now is not going to erase what's happened.
And this will be caught at the 30.
Ooh, he's running,
And he's in. Are you kidding me?
How do you get that
One
up?
of the most improbable ways to fill
the boundary. Gano steps into it. Pass is caught. Diggs! Sideline! Touchdown! Unbelievable! Vikings win it!
And finally, here's some soccer highlights. These goals are both from late in a match.
attacking position, but they've got to do something. And a goal to level it up late on here. Just look at the reaction.
Absolutely astonishing. Now here come Watford. Forestieri. Here's Hogg. Deeney! Do not scratch your eyes. You are really seeing the most extraordinary finish here. It almost mirrors the final day.
There's a trend here, and that trend is that video games cannot replicate big moments that real sports have. Whenever you're watching or playing a sport, you have the opportunity to either do or see something that someone does that's rarely, or in some cases, never even seen before. That's why so many people get hyped up about sports in the first place. Playing a sports video game, all of the models of the highlight reel catches, or the goal celebrations, or the bat flips, or something like that, have already happened in real life. So there's no level of unpredictability in sports games. The only thing unpredictable is if the game is even going to work or not because of all the bugs. I get that it's supposed to be a simulation, but there are no instances that happen in a sports game that we haven't seen in real life, so to a gamer that likes to watch sports, it's just not that appealing. But I will give them this, at least the Dodgers can win a World Series in MLB The Show. How about that? Can they do that in real life? Like, please? Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that sports games are never going to live up to the standards of real sports. The only way that I would ever consider buying a yearly sports franchise is if it was during that sports off-season and I was really craving something that resembled playing. But even then, with how buggy and quick they're rushed out, it's better to err on the side of caution when ordering these games. And I didn't even get into the corporate shilling that happens, like, for example, the NBA 2K, let's call it Black Mamba Edition because the number on the game says 24, so we can get the fans of Kobe to pay us $40 extra edition. Or plastering John Madden all over Madden games in light of his death for extra pity revenue. If there is a sports game that comes out that they spent years developing, testing, and perfecting to make a fun gaming experience, I might buy it, but until then, I'm just gonna stick to the closest thing to a good sports game. Car soccer!